With Hungary just a couple of days away, let's talk about which car will be strongest going into this track. Now, obviously Red Bull is usually the favorite, but there will be some challengers on this track. I fully believe that, and I will give you exactly my reasoning why. We're going to talk about Alpine, McLaren, Aston Martin, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull. And we will be going in order from weakest to strongest on this track. First of all, I want to talk about the characteristics of Hungary, the actual track. With this image up, really showing you exactly what we can expect into Hungary. I mean, first, tires C3 to C5, so the softest of tires here. So this goes into the advantage of people that actually have good tire wear. This is usually a good race for a two-stop strategy. The one stop usually isn't as strong here, so two stops are better. And that goes into the favor of teams that are great on their tires, who can push a lot faster. Downforce is very important here, so actual aero efficiency and high-speed cornering does not really go into the favor of certain specific teams. Now, low speed and medium speed is what this whole entire track is consisted of. The biggest sections as to where speed really is, I guess, really dependent is in Sector 1 after the big long straight. Obviously, that is dependent. After going into turns 3 and 4, you go into a longer straight. That right there, I guess, is a little bit high speed. And going inside corner is medium speed-ish. You have to brake pretty hard. But Sector 2, all slow speed. Sector 3, for the most part, all slow speed. And going into back that main straight. All slow speed to medium speed, you really don't have any high speed cornering. So it is not as important on a track like this. So getting those characteristics out of the way. Now, obviously, with weather involved, it could be different for any team. But I'm talking about bone dry, how it's going to go for the 6 teams that I just named. Let's start off with the weakest team, which I think will be Alpine out of the 6. Now, obviously, this order could change day by day and whether the upgrades make a difference or not, but I'm going off of what we have and what the data we have of in the season. Alpine actually had a pretty strong Monaco, and Monaco, I mean, Hungary used to be actually referred to as the Monaco that isn't a street circuit, because it is still an open circuit and it was handmade. It wasn't made to be off of a street or made in the downtown of, I guess, Budapest. It's actually a track that was made for the purpose of racing. So yes, the Hungary track is different in that sense, but overtaking is hard and the slow to medium speed corners are kind of the same as Monaco. Now yes, Alpine did have a strong Monaco, but that is more, I would say, driver reliant than car reliant. This is a more car reliant track. So in that sense, Alpine has sometimes struggled in those slow speed corners. They didn't really have a great Canada, and I mean, Lando Norris in the McLaren that was not upgraded was almost practically catching Ocon, and probably could have if it wasn't for the issue of the actual whole penalty thing he got. And a couple of more strategy mistakes by McLaren. The pit stops are slow. Long story short, the Alpine car is still lacking in a lot of avenues. It isn't as well balanced as the number 5 team that I will mention, which is McLaren. Now, McLaren has been on an upwards trajectory. Let's be honest, that Silverstone in Austria was chef's kiss. For my eyes, for a lot of people's eyes, who doesn't love to see McLaren up top, especially with Lando Norris? And Oscar Piastri was fantastic as well. But the car still lacks that balance going into low speed corners. It has only really performed in tracks like Spain, Silverstone, and Austria. And all those tracks have the same type of philosophies. Now here's the bright side for McLaren, and where I think they can actually compete very close with 4, 3, and 2. I'm not counting them out. Regardless of them being 5th, I guess in this case, McLaren has been very strong going into certain corners, and sometimes with downforce, like in Spain, they were able to perform. Now, they've had a big wing on that car for most of the year. It's just been their real focal point because their rear end stability has been weak. Now, in Canada, they were okay. I think the upgrades are going to help them, and I would refer Canada to the most similar track in this sense. It's still a track that requires a lot of rear downforce, but also the way that the car is going to turn and what really the philosophies are for it, because tire wear is big there, tire wear is big here. It's slower here, so it's even less to what they like in their car. Now, they've always been a slow car in straight line speed. They are very draggy. They lack that downforce aspect to their car. They're actually pretty aero efficient. They just don't have that, I guess the way you can say, good drag. They have very high drag that prevents them from going into slow speed and medium speed corners at a very well balanced pace. And I think that is what Lando even talks about, the car just being very destructive and terrible in that sense, very poor in that sense. So with that being said, McLaren 5th, and I'm going to go into the top 4 teams now, which I all believe should be within a 10th or 2 of each other. And I'm even talking about Red Bull. Now Red Bull is bringing upgrades, so we'll see where they go, but we're not talking about Red Bull yet. The team I'm going to bring up is Mercedes. I think Mercedes will not struggle here, but I think it's going to be such a close matchup between 4, 3, and 2 for this reason. Mercedes has struggled with their rear end grip. They say that this actual front wing upgrade that they brought will help them a lot in slow and medium speed corners. So for that, I am thankful. I want that Mercedes car to be up higher. Hungary is a track that is, sure, maybe they don't have the best car, but they probably have the best driver on that Hungary track, which is Lewis Hamilton. His track record at Hungary is unstoppable. The dude has been phenomenal here, and I think with a decent enough car, he should be able to get within the top 5 minimum in qualifying and then use that race pace. That car is quick if it is really in that setup window, and I think Hungary might suit to it. It might. That's why I'm saying I'm at 4. They are probably the most improbable team to be fighting Red Bull here, in my personal opinion. Let's go into the number 3 team, which I feel like is Ferrari, and I will give you my reasons why. That car, very well balanced in both front and rear when it comes to going into corners. They've been very strong in slow and medium speed corners. They can even be strong in high speed, but that's not what we're talking about. They have a great straight line car, even with drag on it, because they are very little in drag. They just don't have that real efficiency to its downforce as to how they can really go into certain corners. Sometimes Carlos and Charles describe the car to be very unstable and very reckless in its balance. And that usually ends up resulting in tires being destroyed and their tire wear not being as great. Now, tire wear here is important. I feel like they've fixed that problem. I don't want to talk about the tire wear anymore with Ferrari. I'm sick of it. I think they are going to perform highly here. In qualifying, I think they can even fight for a P1. Deadly serious. I think that Ferrari car should excel here. Them, Mercedes, and the number 2 team, Aston Martin, will all be fighting for pole position. I don't know if in the race, Ferrari and Mercedes will have that extra 10th on Red Bull. But Aston Martin, as Fernando Alonso has said, this is a track that should suit that car in every single aspect. I talked about the rear. I talked about the tire traction. I talked about in general how that car performs here and really what they were able to do in Canada. In that track, without the issues that Alonso had to deal with, I fully believe he could have caught up to Max. Could he have passed him? I don't think so, because that straight was essentially where the pass needed to be happened. On this track, I feel like it's a more well-balanced car for Aston Martin. I really feel like if it's any track that they're going to win, it's going to be here. I fully believe this to be a bigger chance than actually Canada. Now, talking about this, I feel like they will beat Red Bull. What do I mean by that? They will beat Perez. They will not beat Max Verstappen. I think that will be a tough task, and I feel like for that to happen, the car has to be in the perfect setup, and Max has to be in an iffy setup. Max still will excel here. The car's rear grip is just 3 chef's kisses. It's a beauty in rear grip. It's just a phenomenal car. I mean, you can't ever count it out. And for that reason, this Red Bull car will just be a bullet here. I do feel like they might lose out to Aston Martin in Sector 2. That is the only spot that might go to the Aston Martin strength. The biggest things to remember here is for Aston Martin and for Red Bull to actually have a very competitive race, they have to get the setup somewhat wrong, and Aston Martin have to get the setup spot on, because the car really does have the pace, I think, to catch Red Bull. It really does. But it has to be a spot on setup and a spot on track. This is a spot on track. They need that spot on setup. They need to perform phenomenally here if they expect to get the best out of the car. I genuinely believe that, and I think Alonso can do that. Can Lance? I don't know. But Alonso should be able to catch that Red Bull team and definitely beat Perez if the car is set up right. I feel like it's the track to do it. And I'm excited. I think Hungary is going to provide some phenomenal racing for us. I feel like it usually provides phenomenal racing. I don't know why people call it the Monaco. I feel like it's always overtaking, and it's a lot of fun watching the lead bounce back and forth. So let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of the Hungary track? Do you guys agree with my analysis, or you don't? Let me know your thoughts down below. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.